Have you ever wondered what truly goes on inside the mind of someone who commits a crime? Beyond the headlines and the simple labels, what psychological processes might be at play that lead an individual to violate societal norms, harm others, or break the law? It's a question that delves deep into the complexities of human thought and behavior. Welcome to a journey into the fascinating, sometimes unsettling, world of criminal psychology. Today, we're going to explore a powerful concept known as cognitive distortions, how these irrational or exaggerated thought patterns can fundamentally shape an individual's perception of reality, often justifying actions that are harmful, illegal, or both. Understanding these distortions isn't about excusing criminal behavior, but rather about peeling back the layers to reveal the psychological underpinnings that drive it, and more importantly, how we might intervene. At its heart, a cognitive distortion is simply a twisted way of thinking. It's when our minds convince us of something that isn't quite true or isn't entirely rational. For most of us, these might manifest as minor biases, perhaps thinking the worst after a small setback, or feeling like everyone is looking at us. But in the context of criminal behavior, these distortions take on a far more significant and problematic role. Imagine a series of mental shortcuts, or perhaps detours, that allow an individual to commit an act they know is wrong while still maintaining a semblance of internal peace, or at least minimizing their guilt and shame. These distortions act as a kind of psychological shield, helping offenders justify their actions, externalize blame, and reduce the negative emotional fallout. They can pop up before, during, and even after an offense, creating a deeply skewed view of reality that impacts everything from their decision-making to their perception of social norms. This isn't just about initiating criminal acts. It's a significant factor in why individuals might reoffend again and again. Let's break down some of the most common and impactful cognitive distortions identified among individuals who commit crimes. First, there's self-centeredness. This is more than just being a bit selfish. It's an exclusive focus on one's own needs and desires, often to the complete disregard of others. The world revolves around them, and the consequences for anyone else simply don't register. Closely related is blaming others. Here, responsibility for their actions is always attributed to external factors. It wasn't my fault, they made me do it, or society pushed me to this. This mindset actively avoids personal accountability. Then we have minimization. This is about downplaying the severity of their actions or the harm they've caused. A robbery isn't a violent act, it's just borrowing. A serious assault is just a push. The impact on the victim is reduced to nothingness in their mind. A particularly dangerous distortion is hostile attribution bias. This is the tendency to interpret other people's actions as intentionally hostile or threatening, even when they're neutral or ambiguous. Someone bumps into them, and instantly it's perceived as an attack, justifying an aggressive response. The cutoff is another powerful distortion, a concept identified by researchers Stanton Samino and Samuel Yockelson. This involves essentially compartmentalizing one's conscience, temporarily shutting down feelings of empathy or guilt before committing an act. It's like flipping a switch that allows them to ignore their inner moral compass.
And then there's entitlement. This is the belief that one deserves certain advantages or possessions, regardless of the law or the rights of others. This belief can easily justify theft, fraud, or other crimes, where they feel they are simply taking what they are owed. Beyond these specific examples, we see broader distortions, championed by the pioneering work of Aaron T. Beck, the father of cognitive behavioral therapy. These include overgeneralization, where a single negative event leads to sweeping negative conclusions about everything; catastrophizing, exaggerating negative consequences to an extreme; and personalization, believing that others' actions are always directed at oneself. Adding to this framework are concepts like moral disengagement and neutralization techniques, developed by researchers like Albert Bandura and Gresham Sykes and David Matza. These are sophisticated cognitive strategies that allow individuals to disengage from their moral self-sanctions. They can rationalize illegal conduct, even justify truly awful acts, while somehow maintaining a positive image of themselves. This might involve denying responsibility, denying injury to the victim, condemning the condemners, or appealing to higher loyalties. So where do these distortions come from? Theories often point to a stunted moral development, particularly an egocentric bias that can be observed in young children who haven't yet learned to fully consider others' perspectives. Adverse childhood experiences, trauma, neglect, abuse, can significantly contribute to the development of distortions like hostile attribution bias. Other frameworks explore the implicit theories offenders hold about their victims, essentially a set of beliefs and expectations that support and reinforce their distorted views. The landscape of understanding cognitive distortions in criminal psychology has been shaped by many brilliant minds. Aaron T. Beck's work on cognitive distortions laid a foundational paradigm. John Gibbs and his colleagues categorized specific distortions like self-centeredness and blaming others, linking them to egocentric bias. Researchers like Gresham Sykes, David Matza, and Albert Bandura illuminated the mechanisms of moral disengagement and neutralization, and D.A. Andrews and J. Bonta emphasized the critical importance of challenging these maladaptive criminal cognitions in any effective treatment program. This brings us to the most impactful intervention, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT stands as the primary therapeutic approach for addressing these distorted thought patterns. The goal is straightforward but profound: to help offenders identify these irrational thoughts, challenge their validity, and ultimately restructure their biased thinking. It's about building new cognitive skills, replacing distorted thinking with more adaptive and reality-based perspectives, and promoting behaviors that are constructive rather than destructive. CBT is utilized across various settings, in correctional facilities, in community programs, and with different age groups. It often incorporates specific modules for anger management, moral development, and crucial relapse prevention strategies, equipping individuals with tools to navigate challenging situations without resorting to old, harmful ways of thinking. While the understanding and treatment of cognitive distortions are widely accepted and practiced, the field isn't without its debates and complexities.
One central discussion revolves around the criminogenic nature of these distortions. Do these distorted thoughts directly cause crime, or are they more of a reinforcing mechanism? Are they the root cause, or a way for offenders to avoid blame and maintain a positive self-image after the fact? The truth is likely nuanced, a complex interplay. While offenders certainly show elevated levels of distortions that correlate with externalizing problems, disentangling cause and effect remains a challenge for researchers. Another area of ongoing discussion is the effectiveness of interventions, particularly CBT. Meta-analyses consistently show that CBT can significantly reduce reoffending rates, often by 10 to 25% compared to control groups, with even higher success for high-risk offenders in well-implemented programs. This is a substantial impact when considering public safety and individual lives. However, its consistent effectiveness is still questioned under certain circumstances. For example, prison-based CBT, while effective within the institution, often requires continuous support upon release to truly make a lasting difference. If individuals return to the same fundamental issues, lack of employment, unstable accommodation, the benefits can erode. There's also the challenge of voluntary engagement. When participation in therapy is pressured or mandated in correctional settings, it can affect how genuinely individuals engage and whether they truly internalize the lessons. Furthermore, CBT may be less effective for individuals with severe antisocial personality traits, who may lack the fundamental empathy or motivation for change that the therapy relies upon. Finally, researchers continue to explore the specificity of distortions. Are certain distortions more strongly linked to particular types of crime? For example, is entitlement more prevalent in fraud cases, or hostile attribution bias in violent offenses? Or do offenders exhibit more generalized patterns of distorted thinking, regardless of the specific crime? Pinpointing these relationships could lead to even more targeted and effective interventions. Despite these ongoing debates, the study of cognitive distortions remains a critically active and evolving area in criminal psychology. Continual research aims to refine our understanding of their precise role, to enhance the efficacy and context of therapeutic interventions, and to delineate the specific connections between thought patterns and criminal behaviors. This work consistently shapes how we approach offender rehabilitation, giving us better tools for treatment and ultimately contributing to crime prevention. Understanding how our minds can twist reality isn't just a lesson for criminal psychology, it's a powerful reminder for all of us. Our thoughts shape our reality,
And by learning to recognize and challenge our own distortions, we can make more rational, empathetic, and ultimately more constructive choices. Thank you for joining us on this insightful exploration.